Hello, it's me again. Uh, so I've been writing about this type of stuff for past 8, 10 years, and I always see memories pop up. But anyways, on my social media, but you can't read for that and do this at the same time. So I printed something off last night, um, and so really I should have organized it better. I mean, when I got it off the printer, looking at it now, it's kind of anyways. So I'm gonna try to pull out some of the things I've been talking about, but um, so this doesn't necessarily cover. Anyways, so all through churchdom, just growing up in church, you hear about. Well, I don't know if you've heard about it, but I always heard that Satan was, or Lucifer, before he fell, was the choir leader in heaven, and that he circled God as a cherub, and then he got full of himself one day and was like, I'm going to anoint myself above God, and took 1/3 of the angels, and there was a battle, and of course the 1/3 of the angels lost and got cast out of heaven with Lucifer, and then turned into Satan and the demons, and so now we have Satan sending demons, Satan as which was fallen Lucifer, sending demons to possess and hinder people, and that we have to do what's right. We have to not sin, because then that sin lets those demons into our lives, and so the battle is to live in the light, or else the darkness is going to overcome us, and we'll be possessed. And so, reading the Bible, I don't see that at all. The Bible, so Revelations 12:9 says that the great dragon was cast out, and that old serpent called the devil and Satan. Satan is referring to the great dragon, which deceiveth the whole world, was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So that can be kind of confusing, because it sounds like, oh, that's where Satan, who is devil, got cast out and then took angels with him. And so that's then up in verse 4, it says something about the dragon taking 1/3 of the stars of God with him. And then Jesus confirms in Luke 10:18 that he saw Satan fall like lightning. So I'm going to just read what I have. We can see and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. We can see that he was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him, comes after a colon. This means it just adds more context, or gives more explanation to what was previously said. He was cast into the earth, comes after the colon. That comes after Satan, and is an explanation about Satan. It reads, Satan was cast into the earth. We can see that Jesus confirms this in Luke 10:18, when he said he saw Satan fall like lightning. At the end of the word earth is a comma. The comma indicates a pause, and it can also be used to separate items in the list. Since we already talked about Satan, the only subject after the comma to talk about is the serpent, the devil. The verse, and his angels, and earlier, the verse says, and his angels, and earlier in chapter 12 and verse 4, it talks about the dragon drawing 1/3 of the stars of God with him. I believe this verse, people confuse with 1/3 of the angels. This is a wrong understanding. Remember, I said the colon adds more understanding to what was previously said, and since angels is after the colon, it would now be introducing a new subject, like angels in verse 9, because it would be expounding on something that was already said. for those reasons, I believe the angels is a reference to the old serpent called the devil. If we reference angels in Revelations 12:9 in Strong's, we can see it is Strong's number G32 and could mean a variety of things: messenger, envoy, one who was sent, an angel, a messenger from God. It was translated as angels 179 times, as messenger only 7 times. I find it conclusive that the word referencing the devil was used by Paul when he referenced this thorn in his flesh, a messenger sent by Satan. Paul said God removed this thorn and God 3 times, and God's response to all these requests was the same: my grace is sufficient for thee. According to 2 Corinthians 12:9, we see God. No. According to 2 Corinthians 12:9, we see God's grace. Where do we see God's grace? A religious response would be when we are obedient and trust in Him, when we pray without ceasing, etc. But the Bible tells us that grace abounds where sin abounds. So if God's answer is grace, then Paul's question must have been about sin. So what I'm really trying to say is the thorn, or the devil, is sin in every man and woman's flesh. God speaks to this when He tells the serpent that the seed of the serpent will be bruised by the head of the woman, the serpent's head being the power of sin and the woman's seed being Jesus. So, for those reasons, I believe that sin is in our flesh, and sin is the devil, and we've been taught that there's some spiritual realm, which there is. I'm not disputing that, but it's not some separate area where it's how am I trying to say this? It's the spirit fights the flesh. The spirit is the behavior of God inside of us, and it fights the flesh of God, or this fights the flesh, which is sin, the sin in our flesh. And talked about that the other day. Talked about 2 Thessalonians 2. I'll start with 2 Thessalonians 2 again. It said, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there be a falling away first, the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, and that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. That is the spirit fighting the flesh. That is the Spirit of God fighting the devil. That he sits in your flesh and he says that he's the right way. He says that he is God, and that he that's what James 1:14 says, that every man is tempted by his flesh, because the flesh tells you that the lust of the flesh, the things that entice you are going to bring fulfillment. But God tells you that peace, joy, love, happiness, understanding, long-suffering, all that stuff is going to bring you enjoyment. But the flesh doesn't like that, because that requires some patience. And patience has to have its perfect work, or else it's not going to get you where you need to go. So, I don't have this written down, but so we've been taught our whole lives that we need to speak to our mountains and move them. And I totally agree with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the word translated as move, it was also translated as bear. And so I think So, what it's saying is that we need to bear our mountains, because when we are bear our mountains, that is going to make us. That's going to make us, not going to break us. It's going to turn us into. It's going to let patience have its perfect work in us, and so don't try to get out of things. Don't. We've been trying to get out of everything so quickly, but God hasn't been doing it. But God's been telling us to be patient. Just learn to deal with it. I've given you fruits of the Spirit to deal with all this stuff, but you think it's to dance, to jump around and sing, and to get out of things. But God just wants to get you through things so that you can be perfect, wanting nothing. That's your position as a God. So, okay, I'll be done today. Hopefully, I don't know. You guys have a good day. I hope you enjoyed this. I will talk to you tomorrow, hopefully. Just be blessed. Know that you're everything God created you to be, and that the only person that can do anything to you is you, and most of the time that happens because you give away the authority that you've been given. Have a good day.